Hi, this is Devin Dombrowski, and today I want to introduce you to some new features we've just released in Wildlife Rehabilitation MD 2.0. But first, I want to give a huge thank you to everybody for their support. Without your support and your help, this whole project would never be going anywhere. And a special thank you to those that contributed to our Kickstarter campaign a few months ago. You can see that we met our goal, and this funding was super helpful, and honestly I cannot thank you all enough. And for those that weren't able to contribute but were still able to support in other ways, thank you so much to you as well. Truly, your help is critical and so valued, and we thank you so much. I also wanted to briefly mention, if you don't know already, we do keep a blog. The link to it can be found here at the top, or you can go directly to the URL, which is blog.wrmd.org. And on the blog, we just try to keep updates about what we're doing and give you notices about maintenance and just let you know all the fun stuff that's going on. As well, if there were ever any issues or critical problems within worms, we'd be posting on the blog here on our status and getting them fixed. So basically, the blog is our way to communicate with you. So come check it out. So getting into the new features, the very first thing to introduce, and there's not really any way to show you other than for you to experience it, is that this version of WRMD is much faster. And that's partly because it's on a far better, more secure server, but also the underlying code behind WRMD has been completely rewritten and is incredibly more efficient. We were doing some clocking of the code a few days ago, and this version compared to the previous version at times was over 140% faster, which is really great, and we're very proud of the work that we've done. So enjoy the new speed. And even better is it's much easier to make it even faster as we need it to be. The drawback to that, of course, is a little bit more funding is required. Okay, so on to some actual features that I can demonstrate for you. One of the features that we've greatly improved upon is the ability to lock a case to a user so that no other users can use that case at the same time, to help to remove conflicts of record keeping and so on. And so what I want to show you now is how that works. On this browser, I'm logged in under Chrome, and you can see that I put my name as Devin on Chrome. And the reason for that is if I go over to this browser, which is under the exact same account, I'm logged in on Firefox, and I've made my name Devin on Firefox. And I've only done that to show you how this demonstration is going to work. So if I go over to Initial Care, I'm on record number 64, and I could be on here and I can start making changes, or I could just be reading the record. But if I go over back to Chrome, and I go to record number 64, you can see that there's a warning up top that says Devin on Firefox is currently editing this case. Furthermore, all of the fields on this record have been grayed out or disabled, and I can't make any changes either. So I'm allowed to read the record, but I can't make any changes. Now, of course, it can't remain like this forever, because if I were on this record here on this browser and I walked away, that wouldn't be necessarily fair to all the other users, because then I would be essentially locking this case to me and not allowing anybody to use it. So the truth is that what's happening is WRMD is allowing me to, quote, own this record for up to 2 minutes. And after 2 minutes of no activity, it will lock this record so that I cannot use it and open it up so that anybody else or the next person can reclaim it. So we'll wait for 2 minutes and you'll see what'll happen. Okay, the 2-minute clock has expired, and you can see that WRMD has locked this case because it thinks that I've walked away or I'm no longer using it. So it's locked it so that now Devin on Firefox can no longer use this record either. And you can see that all the fields on here are now grayed out and the buttons are disabled. Now if I went back to the Chrome version and revisit the case, you can see that it's now available. and I actually have now claimed it as my own on this browser. So if I were to come to Devin on Firefox and go to the record, it would now say Devin on Chrome is currently editing it. Now, of course, this is two browsers on one computer, which wouldn't normally be the case. It would be different browsers on different computers if it were to happen this way. So now Devin on Chrome has this record for 2 minutes. But let's say I'm looking at this record and I'm making some changes, and let's say this animal was male and he weighed 34 grams and was an adult and in pretty good condition. And I just made some simple changes, and I could do other things if I needed. So I've made some changes. So now what? Well, you can see, first of all, as happened before, the auto-saving begins. So WRM knows that I made some changes, so to help make sure those changes get saved, it's going to start to back up and automatically save this record, whether I press update record or not. And it happens very fast. There's a little flash up here that says auto-saving. As well, all changes saved is still displayed here. Now suppose I make my changes and I go back to the animal and I start doing a further exam on it, and I come back to the record and maybe a minute and a half has passed. Well, that doesn't mean that I have only 30 seconds left to make changes on the record before it's locked and I can no longer use it. What it means is if I come on here and I put a band on the animal, and it was maybe caught by a cat, so I'll give it a keyword of cat. And master problem, broken walnut. Well, I just made more changes on this record. And what happens is every time I make a change on the record, the 2-minute clock is reset. So now I get to keep the record for another 2 more minutes. So if there was only maybe 10 seconds left on the clock, I could still come in and make some changes and retain ownership of this record. So if I went back to Devin on Firefox, you can see that it's still locked, and I can no longer use it here because Devin on Chrome is using it. And the autosave will continue to go every 15 seconds for the remainder of the 2-minute clock, as long as the 2-minute clock is open. Okay, now you can see that the 2-minute clock has truly expired. So if I went back to Devin on Firefox and came to this case, then I would retain ownership of it here. However, I want to show you our answer to one other thing. Suppose I came back to this record on this browser and I wanted to continue making changes, but the record is locked, so how would I go about doing that? Well, as it says in here, you basically just need to revisit the case to retain ownership over it. So if I just came back to here, you can see now I own it again. And this, of course, is assuming that nobody else on any other browsers or any other computers has come to this case before you did. The next thing I want to show you is what changes we've made to creating a new record. And really the biggest change evolves around identifying the species. It's been requested over and over again to be able to admit species that aren't known to Wildlife Rehabilitation MD. For example, if somebody showed up at your facility with a completely miscellaneous animal, so ordinarily you would type in the species name, like if it were a red-tailed hawk, you could type in hawk, red, and select the species, and go on. But now you can type in any species name. So for example, if somebody came in with an eclectus parrot, you could type in eclectus. And you'll see this warning shows up that says you are admitting an unknown species. You may use it, however, reporting may be less accurate. And that's exactly correct. You can continue on, you can use this species name, you can type in whatever you want, and it will be allowed. However, because Wildlife Rehabilitation MD doesn't know what this species is, it doesn't know if it's a mammal, a bird, a reptile, it doesn't know where it's geographically found, it won't be able to do reporting on it as accurately as the species that it does know. So, I strongly recommend that you continue to use the known species and make sure you're spelling things accurately. Because if you continue to use your own species names, then your reporting, especially your year-end report, won't necessarily be that accurate. And that's how that works. Now lastly, I wanted to show you a few new extensions that we're introducing. So I will go to Settings, List All Extensions. And of course, if you're not familiar with any of these extensions, go watch the video about our extensions. But the two that we're introducing now, one is called Quick Admit. You can see it's already activated, but if it wasn't, you could just say Activate Extension. And what Quick Admit does is creates a much faster way for you to admit your species if you needed a faster way. And how it works is if we go to New Record, there's a link up here that says Quick Admit. Basically what this is a much more simplified version of the previous screen, where we can enter in the species, whether it's known or not, the number of patients, the date admitted, which defaults to the current date, date found, current date, time admitted, the current time, observations, and what fed. And those are the only fields on this screen. This extension should pretty much only be used if you're wanting to catch up in your records real fast and you want to enter them in without any of the normal fields that are found on the new record screen, such as rescue or intake information. Or if you have a backlog of records and you just want to get them in, Quick Admit is what you can use. Now, of course, once your animals are admitted, you'll still, of course, need to go in and fill in their disposition and any initial care information as you see fit. The next extension that we've introduced is Wildlife Rehabilitation MD Backup. And you can see straight away that the version currently is beta. And the reason it's only in beta is because we don't feel like it's completely finished yet. However, we wanted to release it so that it was available for you. It works perfectly fine, it's very stable. It's only beta because it doesn't have all the features in it that we want to put into it in the future. When the extension is activated, you'll see a link over on the left that says WRMD Backups. And there's a quick notice here about the information regarding the beta. As I said before, not all of the features are in it yet that we want. The features that are missing are allowing these backups to happen automatically, to be able to back up specific years within WRMD, and also to be able to store the backup files on different servers if you want. Right now, the way Wildlife Rehabilitation MD Backup works is that you have to manually create the backups. So by clicking the Make New Backup button, a backup file is created, and you can see the size and the date and time that it was created, and they are stored locally on WRMD servers, which is perfectly fine, but it's much more safer to store backups on remote disks. So what you can do then is download your backup file and store it on your computers or your servers, however you prefer to store your files. That way you have a backup of your data. It's important to know that these backup files are SQL backup files. So if you're not familiar with the SQL language, then if you look at these files, it'll pretty much look like gibberish to you. SQL is much more sophisticated than any kind of Excel or spreadsheet backups. So we've chosen this option to backup files because it keeps the data much more organized and can be easily transported to different databases if you choose to do so. You can also delete your backups just by clicking on the trash can. And for now, you can keep as many as you want. And those are some of the primary updates that we've made. The truth is, there are hundreds of other changes that we've made to tweak things and make things better. But I don't want to go through all of them because it would take forever. And many of them are so subtle that you may not even notice. But they're all important. So, thank you for watching the video. If you have any questions, then please ask, send us feedback. And thank you so much for watching, and we really, truly appreciate your support.